6:39. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne, across your TV, your radio and online, right across the UK and worldwide, in fact.
Yeah, it's time to go through the newspapers now. And joining us this morning is journalist Ella Whelan and Kevin Schofield, political editor of the Huffington Post. Good morning to both of you.
Morning.
Right, shall we start off with the story, I suppose, which is leading on a lot of the newspapers' front pages this morning, and we've been talking about it already, is the Rwanda deportations and Prince Charles, Kevin.
Yeah, it's a cracking scoop that the Times have got. So last night the High Court ruled that the first deportation flights to Rwanda can go ahead on Tuesday. But they have, and it's not been denied by Clarence House, they've got some private comments that Prince Charles has made, basically calling the policy appalling. In particular, he's embarrassed because he will be representing the Queen at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kigali later this month. So he's obviously embarrassed, he says, by this policy. He says he was more than disappointed at the policy and thinks the government's whole approach is appalling. And yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, I think, as well, because obviously sooner or later he's going to become king, and he has made a bit of a reputation for himself in previous years for making interventions in political debate, which is something that the royal family tends not to do.
But look, he's entitled to a view, though. We can't prevent him from having a view. It's down to whoever's leaked this, isn't it? Whoever's leaked this should be...
Well, then you wonder who has this been leaked on purpose?
Yes, you do wonder.
To get it out there.
I don't know that it would have been, would it? Because he is having to backtrack. He's having to say I am totally neutral. It's a bit of it's thin ice, isn't it?
It is, although his view is now out there, and it probably doesn't do him any harm.
It's interesting that the newspapers, in the way they're reporting it, are making a point of the fact that it was a private comment, which suggests, I just sort of thought, well, that means that he sort of approves of it leaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, Prince Charles he went in 2021, he went to Davos to announce his Terra Carta, which was kind of framed as this sort of very benign thing about, let's just be nice to the planet. It's just one of the rules, doing some kind of charitable act. But actually, within his announcement, he was hectoring world leaders about the need to put sustainability at the heart of economic policy, which, in the context of what we're going through at the moment, cost of living crisis, is deeply political. It's a deeply political statement about how it's shaping economic policy. So I would not blink an eye of surprise at the suggestion that he might have wanted this to be out there. He's been quite open about the fact that the crown, when it falls to him, is going to change. He's talked about it being stripped down, but also I think he's not. If he tried to follow in his mother's footsteps and do the whole kind of keep stum thing, no one would really believe him.
I don't think he'd be able to.
He's been so vocal about so many things, and just on the question of the Rwanda policy, I mean, I disagree with it politically. I don't think it's the right way to deal with immigration issues. But I mean, this policy is pretty much copy and pasted from the European Union playbook. I mean, they have had similar policies like this in relation to Libya and other places for quite some time. And we had, was it Justin Welby, someone come out recently in the last sort of month or so condemning it, saying it was immoral. Now Prince Charles. I mean, where were all these criticisms when it was happening over in Europe?
Well, Sandy's been in touch. Morning to you, Sandy. Says, first the Archbishop of Canterbury, now the future king wading in. Both of these gentlemen are so out of touch with reality. Do they really have solutions, or are they just trying to get headlines?
Well, I mean, it was before the courts yesterday, and the judge said the flight could go ahead. There was nothing to stop it at the moment. We understand there will be some sort of appeal, but that could take a while. And so it will just rumble on, I guess. Meanwhile, Ella, in the Telegraph, Boris Johnson's announced that he's going to announce a sort of food and farming plan.
Yeah, putting it that way, announce that he's going to announce is a good one. Obviously, in the wake of what happened with the no confidence vote that he won, Boris Johnson is feeling the need to flood government with policy or strategy announcements. And this one, his Growth for Britain strategy, is relevant, and I think a lot of people would say is necessary. A question of food security has become, very important. The Telegraph reports that food prices and interest rates are set to rise again to 1.25%. So, people are looking at their shopping bills, skyrocketing, which is a very serious issue. his strategy, as far as he's outlined it, or as far as the Telegraph describes it here, it does not have a lot of detail. I mean, some suggestions that he would make it easier to convert land into farms. I texted my farmer husband, whose family's a farmer. He said, "I have no idea what that means. What does that mean? More visas for migrant workers to work in poultry farms.
Poultry.
And that he makes a statement that farmers need to be more productive, and that planning rules should be relaxed to make it easier to convert land into farms to grow fruit and vegetables. The central, one of the most important issues that farmers will tell you, and I hear it because my family tells me, in-laws tell me about it all the time, is that there is a huge push in relation to environmental policy to rewild, to plant trees on arable land, and all of that is still happening. And farmers, and actually, GBNEWS regularly has a sheep farmer in Wales come on to talk about the fact that the demonisation of particularly meat farming, raising livestock, is having a real knock-on effect to farmers' ability to live and work. And so, the Tories have to address that level of it, as well as making sort of slightly conflicting or empty promises about converting land. So a food security policy is definitely necessary, but it needs to have more detail than that.
Yeah, more detail. But on the surface, a good idea.
Well, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Mind you, still under pressure, according to the Eye, Kevin, this morning, yet more plots to unseat him.
Yeah, so he won the vote, as Ella said, on Monday night, although it was a bit too close for comfort, I think, as far as he's concerned, although he came out afterwards and tried to be very...
yes, but no one cares about the results of votes these days. Look at Brexit.
Well, that's true. I mean, so basically now we're in a stalemate situation, effectively. The rebels haven't gone away. They still want rid of them, but they don't all agree, basically, on a mechanism in order to get rid of them. Now,
that's probably the real biggest problem, isn't it? There is no mechanism now.
There isn't now, unless you get some maybe ministerial resignations. Perhaps if they lose these by-elections, that might increase the political pressure a little bit. But I've got an interesting line here that there's a sort of little-known rule in the Tory constitution that if 65 local party chairmen call an extraordinary general meeting of the National Conservative Convention, bit of a mouthful, they can hold their own vote of no confidence in him. And if that was to go against them, then the grassroots revolting, that might be...
Sounds unlikely.
A trigger. Well, apparently they tried it with Theresa May as well, because she survived a confidence vote. So they tried it to get rid of her, but she read the writing on the wall and went before it actually took place. He's not going to resign.
He doesn't read writing on the wall, does
he? He's not interested in that. So it might be a sort of groundswell of grassroots opinion might get rid of him. But right now, as I say, he's probably safe until the autumn. But it's a pretty shaky truce, really, between the rebels and...
Depends what he comes forward with policy-wise, doesn't it?
I mean, the irony about that little-known policy is that it was dug out in 2019 by Jacob Rees-Mogg to oust May, who is now all over the television saying, please, enough, leave Boris alone. So
that is indeed irony.
Things come back to bite you. But, the question has to be whether or not he's got the big ideas. And in the wake of the first sort of few days after the no confidence vote that he won, as Kevin says, narrowly, he made this big announcement about a new strategy, which the big announcement on housing was allowing people on benefits to own homes and nothing on building. So you just think, what measly, rubbish kind of announcement.
Sort of headlining.
Come up with something better to save your skin.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the airport chaos, which sounds horrendous and it really is making even me think maybe I don't want to go away, is causing more people to actually book UK holidays.
Yeah, it's just day on day on day you see, here in the Express picture, and you can see that pictures of Bristol Airport, which was described as a zoo with queues out the road all the way around the airport. Still reports of EasyJet cancelling flights daily. British Airways also cancelling flights daily, but then giving more kind of advance notice than EasyJet. And there just being no end in sight, basically. But as you say, the sort of flip side of this is that partly out of choice, some people in advance, and partly, as is reported in the Express, literally on the day of a cancelled flight, people are booking up places in the UK. So, bookings over the last 2 weeks were up 22% on the same period last year. The weather's in our favour. It's going to get very hot next weekend. And, of course, there's but so says the Express. Which,
the Express always says that.
but also there is the fact of the cost of living crisis, which is that there will be people who have snap-ups and cheap flights to Menorca who are currently lying on the floor of Manchester Airport in a great misery, and that's terrible. But there'll be others who have decided to try and save some money and will go, maybe.
Have you booked a holiday abroad?
I'm going to Cornwall next week. No, the week after, and I'm planning it so that I miss the Glastonbury traffic and try and get some sun. But I think that's all, I think it's what most people are looking to do is, you've had 2 years of a nightmare. This is the first year in which we've really kind of got back to normal after the pandemic. And it's just such a travesty that the airlines haven't planned for this.
Think about that.
They blame staff shortages.
Steve's just
I've just booked 2 weeks in Spain for August, but it's cabin luggage only. Because they are, I know that's what they say they want.
I can't believe how much they're going to charge.
150 quid per person for the cabin luggage.
Just for the luggage?
No, sorry, not for the cabin. If you want the hold.
Oh my.
So it's just like, well, you wouldn't do it. But they want to avoid all these checking queues. So they're just pricing you out of it.
What about you?
We booked last November. We were going to Cyprus. The first foreign holiday since 2018. Hopefully. It's all paid for.
I know, that's what you have to say now, hopefully.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, rough ticket.
We've got to get it sorted out soon, surely.
It's just shocking.
Look, we're going to leave you two for now. Kevin, Ella, thank you, but we'll catch up with you a little bit later on.